Welcome to Global Socialpreneurs, a one-of-a-kind talk show showcasing expert social entrepreneurs. Learn their stories and their secrets to creating a sustainable impact. Now, here are your hosts, social entrepreneurs Ann Scottlin and Shametria Gonzales.
Hi, welcome everybody. Hello, Shametria.
Hi, Ann. How's it going today?
Good. I'm so excited to be back and talk more about this social entrepreneurship. Thank you, everybody who was here last week. We got a great response, a ton of views, and I'm really excited about where this is going and how we're going to help support other entrepreneurs with this. Again, if you're new to the show, it's about social entrepreneurship specifically and how we can create a humanitarian or ecological impact in a sustainable way. And social entrepreneurship, if it's new to you, means social impact projects and initiatives that are for profit as opposed to nonprofit. And we talk more about that as we go, but sometimes you can have a social entrepreneurship within a nonprofit. Like it could be a division where they're teaching skills or selling something at a store. There's ways to do that. We're focused on that, but also specifically on people who are doing this specifically. They are starting a business with the intent of creating a social impact. They're starting a business with the intent not just to make money, but to solve a social problem. And so that's what we're talking about today, and the fact that you can make money along the way. You're allowed to get paid while you are doing good in the world. You're also allowed to feed yourself. You're allowed to learn how to run a smart business that makes money that you can reinvest in it and keep it sustainable as you're making that impact. Anything else about social entrepreneurship, Shametria, you want to share?
Yeah, I just always say it's the thing that makes you remember your why. And when you remember your why, it's connected to something so much bigger than you.
I love that so much. Okay, so I am not going to delay because I am super, super excited about our guest today. Shametria and I met her when we were all speaking in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
At a conference for International Women's Day. We all both got to meet Tammy. We got to sample some of her retail products, which was very, very fun, and learn her incredible story of what she's doing. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on her bio, and it's so well written. I'm actually going to read it, and that always doesn't happen, so it's very nice for me. Growing up in the beautiful, lush mountains of West Virginia, Tammy Jordan has always had a deep love for nature. At the age of 5, she dreamed of owning a farm, and that desire only grew with time. After over a decade working with USDA, so that's the United States Department of Agriculture, in agricultural research, Tammy left her federal job and went full-time with her company, Fruits of Labor, Inc., which marries agriculture and the culinary industry. The 22-year-old company expanded into retreats with the addition of a 218-acre Fruits of Labor Retreat Center and Agricultural Production Center in 2012, which offers renewal retreats for pastors, expansive production gardens, a training orchard, berry production, mushroom production, floriculture, floral design, and maple syrup production systems. Oh, that's amazing. Fruits of Labor also operates 5 training cafes, which is especially what we're talking about today, bakeries and coffee shops across the region, 5, to provide education, certification, training, and employment for adults in recovery. And we're going to talk more about that. So please welcome Tammy Jordan. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, thank you all so much for having me.
Super excited to have you here.
Yes.
Super excited. Shametria, any initial questions you wanted to ask Tammy?
Tammy, I just want to get right into it. Oh my goodness. When we met in Washington, first of all, the brownies, the pastries, the food, that was amazing. So let me just give you your flowers. I need some. I'll send you my address. But my first question to you is, what made you want to start a farm? Like, I know that was your dream, but like for you to actually start the business of it and now have over 200 and how many? Like over 280 acres? Like, it's ridiculous. What made you want to start that?
Well, when I was in kindergarten, and I always speak about youth and the influence that we have, our class went to a field day at a dairy farm. And I came home that evening and told my mom, I want to own a show farm. So you can imagine a 5-year-old coming in and saying, I want to own a show farm. And my mom, bless her heart, is so absolutely patient. She was like, well, what does that mean to you? What does a show farm mean? And how would you accomplish this? And what would you need to do? And so, I believe that children can definitely have our callings early in life. And sometimes people get their callings and purpose much later in life. And it really doesn't matter. What matters is that we're moving towards that. And so I was very blessed to have parents that cultivated dreams, and also the labor that comes with fulfilling those dreams. It's not just let's dream about this, but it's also how can we make this a reality. And so that began the journey for me.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And so I know when Ann was talking about your bio, when we spoke, I mean, your faith, your resilience, and your worth ethic is like all put into one. And when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we really talk about for profit, but with a purpose. So you connected that 5-year-old purpose to a dream. And then the part that really goes further than that is you created schools, basically educational resources for individuals in recovery. So what type of recovery and what made you really go into that space?
Well, about 11, well, I'm so sorry. We started our business in 2001. And then in 2009, I went to visit a lady that I knew in Alderson prison. And that really transformed my view of how can my company do something beyond production or beyond weddings and catering and the things that definitely made my heart happy. So I had that calling into agriculture and production and into catering that moved me throughout my life. But then it was about a little over a decade later that purpose was added to it. And so when I talk to social entrepreneurs, is that don't worry which comes first. Sometimes our purpose comes first and we have to learn how to live it out. Sometimes the calling and the things that we love and what we're talented in comes first, and then it's connected to a deeper purpose. So that visit really transformed the way that I looked at how a for-profit can be meaningful in a time and space that really was not even, it was on the forefront. So I had most individuals that I came encountered and with really wanted to say, become a nonprofit. This is what you want to do. You need to become a nonprofit. And I am so much about business. And so I was like, no, we're not going to become a nonprofit. We have to teach businesses how they can be impactful. And the only way I can do that is to be a business being impactful. And so that was really our strategy, even though it was a much harder road, I believe, from the thought at the time when we started. But it's certainly becoming very different over time as we expand our concept of how purpose can be played out, both in the nonprofit world and the for-profit world.
That's amazing. So how did this this friend that you visited in prison, this woman, where did that story go with her?
So she turned herself in. It was a 30-day sentencing, and just really wanted her life to be transformed. And I really thought the ministry that we provide would come out from her. It was like my concept of going into prison was like, oh my goodness, God, you can do amazing things. And maybe this is a ministry of her experience that will just come out of that. But God was really leading my heart to see what I needed to see, the need that was in prison, the need of transitioning out, and also that we already had the framework of industry that is oftentimes more willing to hire and receive people back into community from that. So it was really just building a framework around what was already in existence, and then cultivating something that was specifically meaningful to the individuals we were called to serve.
And this reminds me of when me and you spoke last week and we talked about ministry being more than just church. Like when you said ministry, I want you to dive a little deeper into that, because you're not talking about a church.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're talking about when you talk about the ministry that you do.
Oh, well, absolutely. I think that ministry, while certainly ministry happens within the church walls, ministry is also calling out to go into community, to go into those that are on the edge or unlovely or marginalized, those that are overlooked by community or looked down upon. And so not only are we bringing industry relevant tools, we're also bringing nurturing, we're bringing nourishment to their souls to just reclaim their value and worth. And it isn't indoctrination into my belief system. It is actually living it out before them. And then they will come to me with questions, or, I want to do this, or I want to be like that, or I am struggling with this concept in my life. Do you have any verses that can help me get through this? And so it's such an organic process that I feel is much more meaningful because they are starting this journey of transformation at a time that many times they're at their lowest point, or just rising from that. And we just reach out our hands and say, come, just, take a hold of it. And we're here for you. And even when they push against us, or, are struggling internally, or they quit, our hands are right there saying, we're waiting for you to come back. You haven't failed. This is your starting again, but come back. And we do that consistently when there's seasons of maybe reoccurrence or maybe just distress. We are the ones waiting and saying, we have not given up on you. So you can run, and you can seek different paths to recultivate what you have inside of you, but we're still waiting. And so that's a piercing comment that goes into a heart that is scared and fearful and challenged and feeling like they've let everybody down, to have someone say, no, I'm right here. I've not gone anywhere, and I'm not leaving you. And I will have my arms stretched out, but you have to be willing to come back and just take my hands, and we're going to go again. And so it's so powerful to know that your choices are not beyond the transformation that's waiting on you when you're ready to return.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I just love it. I mean, making me emotional just sitting here listening.
I know we talked about ministry. I'm like, that's what, like, when you talk about them asking you for something that could just get, like, I wear this every day because it reminds me that the joy that I have here is because this isn't my home. Like, I know where my home is, and I know, not to get all spiritual, but like, it's just that word, right? So that's what that is for me. So the fact that that's what they give you, and you can provide all of these different things for them, but you're about your business. So, and look, this is what I really want to know is the numbers. So not to ask numbers, like, how do we finance something like this? We're talking, y'all, we're not talking about a little one-off. Like, we have one home for Grace at the work that I do. Like, you have 5, and then you have all this land.
And I'll tie in, I'll dovetail on that and say, so how did this turn into a business? How was your business born, basically, from that experience with the friend, and like, where did the bakeries come from? Like, and along the way, what did you do that from a business perspective?
Well, the business was already formed. So the business came first. It was already 11 years old.
Nice.
So that
You
was
had one?
already, I had one location with a farm at that time.
Okay.
So those two were already formed and active. And then it was adding the layer of social mission to the business. So that's where the difficulties are. Businesses are meant to gather. So we're meant to gather resources into ourselves, to grow, to have paid fees back from our product or our services. So that's the purpose of a business, is to gather. And the purpose of a mission is to give. So you can imagine it's like giving and gathering. I mean, like, it's just like you're gathering in and you're pouring out. So as you can imagine, if you were looking at a nonprofit, which is the mission to pour out, and your for-profit is to gather, you are fighting yourself all the time. It is a constant battle because you're gathering. And usually when you're gathering, you want to store it, right?
Yes.
Because that's the concept of business, is to gather and store and acquire to then grow. And maybe you pour out to grow, but that's really the concept of business, is gathering and storing and gathering and growing. The concept of mission is you have to have resources, but you're constantly pouring out. Yes. So when you look at this model, it's so incredibly unique of what are we gathering for and how are we pouring it out. And so it's a constant, you cannot live in a place that you want to hoard things or hold on to things, because that is not how this type of model works. It is, every time I see what we are doing, my first thought is, how can I hire another student? Wow. And a great example, we're getting ready to launch our 5th location. And there was one space that just opened, and I was like, oh gosh, I've got to order a table for that. And I thought, oh, well, a table doesn't support a student. You know, that doesn't help anything. So I was like, well, what can I put there that would support a student? And I thought, well, we don't have ice cream in our pizzeria and a coffee shop. So we're going to add ice cream to this location. Wow. And from there, I was like, well, you know, we're a bakery. We can't do ice cream without making our own waffle cones. So then it was, you know, so it was really, it's how do you think differently? We are thinking about every single item that we put into play. How does this employ a student? How does this help to support that? Because that transforms how you look at space, how you look at opportunity. When you know that you're looking at human development and concepts and transformation and training, that's what my eyes are always looking for. And so then that starts to build the structure of each new opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And explain for us, like, what, so when you call student, I assume this is one of the people that you're working with. So describe where they are coming from, how they get introduced to you, and then what do they do once they're working with you?
So our students can come from community. We have name recognition, obviously, in the communities we serve. So sometimes we just have people come in and say, I hear you help people like me. And I'm like, there's nothing better than that, of just saying, I hear you help people like me. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, yes, you know, fill out an application. We've had students come to us straight from prison with ankle bracelets, and it's talking through, that's okay. There's not a problem. We have students that carry felonies. We have one of our highest ranked student has a felony, and we're like, that's okay. And so it's really understanding that it can come, people can come from any source. We also work with recovery housing. So one of our sister organization is Seed Sower, which does the housing, transportation, and recovery support services, medical appointments, all of those types of things. And so every single person enrolled in their location is also part of Fruits of Labor training and experience, and they know that going into it as an opportunity. We work with other recovery facilities. We also work with drug court programs, day report. So there's multiple layers of organizations like workforce. We have West Virginia has Jobs and Hope. So all of those are calling. We have about we're almost like 90%, but I always say a little over 85% success rate.
Wow.
So it's really a devoted program to success. And then roughly drug court is about 50% success rate in graduation. And if they graduate from our training program, 90% go on to graduate from their drug court program. So it's boosting drug court about 40% on average. So it's really something to not only when you're an entrepreneur and you're wanting to like really start something, you've got to have really great products and services,
Yes.
but you also have to have really great mission and training. And where we carry nationally certified culinary and ag training, it makes a difference in what they're receiving on their exit. We intentionally look to promote to management, our management programming. So we have multiple layers of that, so that our students are actually running the cafés. We run about 80% student-led on all of our locations on average. So we're putting our belief in practice, not just saying we have a fully staffed cafe and then we have students behind the scenes. We are actually having them as managers, as a site location manager, floor managers. So there's lots of layers that they are gaining leadership skills and management skills.
So just to make sure I have this right, so you actually hire them, pay them a salary through as if they're a normal employee, but then you've partnered that with local organizations that can help them as they've already served their punitive damages. So when they get out, now they have these restrictions and you help support them while they make it through that, as well as teaching them soft skills that'll help them get back into the workforce.
Yes.
Dude, that's genius. I just love it. And I like to break down models, because when people hear this and they see social entrepreneurship, they're like, I got this business. How do I get the model? Right? And you had a system, but you created the model because of your mission.
Yes.
That's hard work, man. Getting with all those drug courts and all of these different organizations. I know not-for-profit work. And so you're doing it for profit and you're giving away. It's brilliant. And so I commend you. I give you flowers. And I actually, I used to have a project called Forward, and it was for women who had got out of prison. I would partner them with mentors. And I only had 8 women. So it took a year and they graduated out, but it was really, really hard. And I was really dedicated. One did go back, but it was a hard loss. But I value what you're doing, because I know you make it sound easy. I just want people to know it's systems that you have in place. But kudos to you. Can I ask, how many women do you think have come, or I'm sorry, individuals have come through your program?
Well, last year we had 20 enrolled on average through each semester, and we have 4 semesters, so we had 79. But we did mass trainings of over 1,000 within prisons and youth programming. So that is a whole separate, like, hands-on. Yeah. But we probably by the end of this year will be just under about 200 that will have gone through the employment part and everything over since the concept started.
And do they have like a ceremony? Are they celebrated in any way? Like that? I love those things.
So all they will graduate each semester, and then once they move up, then we're just like, we have all of these opportunities to showcase with additional like there'll be guest speakers. We have gatherings 3 times a year we train other businesses. We've had over 200 go through our fruits of labor concept of communities of healing, and then we will reach 40 at the end of July that have gone through a 12-week long training program between Fruits of Labor with the recovery support, Right Venture Services with social entrepreneurial support, and then West Virginia Hive creates the business advising support. So it's teaching them Fruits of Labor's model so that businesses within our state can actually start to replicate portions of this. As a business owner, to hire even just one person in recovery. So they learn what to expect, and if there are challenges, how to deal with those, and then also how to celebrate the success.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I love what you're saying everything you're telling me is just makes me so excited. But the collaboration being such an integral part of this model, I really love, because this is so deeply and dearly what I believe in as well. And it's why I started Social Entrepreneurs, and it's why I coach social entrepreneurs, because many people have this deep desire. They have skills, they have tools, they may have resources, but they're just like, it's just too much. And while it is a lot of work, connecting so that not only are you building your own social initiative, you're also helping support other social initiatives, and you're allowing those organizations to help support you. For example, I was just thinking, I don't even know if you know this yet, Tammy, that Shametria is, she's a trained speaker, as you know, award-winning national speaker, and she also trains speakers, and she's starting a new program, a new social enterprise that is specifically to train people in recovery to speak and get paid for their stories so they don't get utilized badly.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep. And I think, and Tammy, the 2 things that really excite me, one is collaboration when it comes to you teaching, train the trainer. That is a model that doesn't matter what business you're in. It's a model that is literally for social entrepreneurs. If you're saying, hey, this works for me, this helps individuals, this is how we do it, you've already have a proven system. And if you have a retreat center for the women for them to heal as well, is that separate, or you take the individuals who are in business through that as well? Because I know both are very, very much needed to make it in this, but that's the part I'm kind of trying to figure out.
So the retreat center is separate. That's a separate programming.
Okay.
But businesses will come through a 12-week long training program. Wow. And then we have gatherings in person at our location so that they can catch the vision in action. They can see our students in action, because that's so important. It's one thing to have a concept of it. It's another thing to experience it. And then if they're challenged in that, we have them 3 times a year, but if they're challenged during that time, then it's like a renewal as well for the business owner, because they are reinvigorated when they see our men and women serving and cooking and coming out and speaking and telling their story and really enjoying that. And then our sister organization, Seed Sower, which came from the vision of, I had to send one of my students home to an alcoholic grandfather. And I was like, we have to have housing. And so that was launched in 2020, and it's a completely separate nonprofit organization, just our sister organization to support our women, not all of our women, but most of our women in recovery live in the different housing that's available.
That's crazy, because, I'm also in real estate, and one of the things we do is Home for Grace. So that's housing for women who've been sexually trafficked. And so it's just, but we use real estate as our means of, bringing in the money, and then we put out by putting it into real estate to where women can actually have a home that have been trafficked. So I'm just so overwhelmed with joy about what you got going on. And one of the nuggets that I found out When I used to work in Louisiana, I was working with women that, who had been, getting out of prison, call it reentry. And the state insured us and insured our property up to, I think, $15,000 per person, and gave us a $2,500 tax write-off on each individual that we were able to hire, or able to place into being hired. So it's just there's so many amazing things that our community, our country, our state, our local representatives and politicians, they do have these things in place, because once you get out, you're our neighbor, you're our sister, you're the person driving next to us in the street, right? So we have to deal with this. If not, it's something, I think it's called like prison, like it's like a when they go back, and recidivism.
Yes,
That's not, I don't know. So I think one of my biggest missions was stopping recidivism, which means that you get out and then you go back, and then you get out and then you go back. So that 80%, that 85% you're talking about is stopping recidivism, because when they get out, they've already paid their punitive damages. You're teaching them how to enter back into community, supporting them through that, and then giving them jobs that keeps our economy going. I think that's a win-win system. That's all I'm saying. I love it. I love it.
So Tammy, how do you sustain yourself? Because you've been doing this for a really long time now.
Yeah.
I think twofold. One, financially, how does that work out as a social entrepreneurship model so that you can have a decent lifestyle? And then secondly, just emotionally and physically, how do you sustain, you work at an extraordinarily high pace and you do so many things. So how do you sustain that?
So I'm not a huge recommender of books, but there is a book that I do recommend. It's called Sacred Rest. And that was very transformative, because I do run all the time, just 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And that has been going on for a long time. Thank goodness. I have a wonderful husband who is a bivocational pastor. So he has a full-time job and is also pastoring a church. So, but his gift is rest, and how to do it well. So God has taken me at this level and him here, and we're colliding somewhere in the middle. So that has been a wonderful journey of the value of rest, and to renew and to restore. And so those look differently for every individual, but it is something that we have to be focused on and intentional about. And so that book was very transformative to me. She also has a free rest test to see where you are deficient. There are nine different types of rest. So a lot of times people come up and say, you need to just go take a nap. Well, you may not be deficient in physical rest. You may be deficient in spiritual rest. And so how to restore and renew each of those is incredibly important. And so every year I take the rest test to see where I'm at. Am I gaining ground? Am I losing ground? And then I dive back into that chapter to see what do I need to focus on from there. So that's very helpful. But that's all coming from what you're reading and then imparting it back into yourself. I also have business coaches. I have a mentor. I also have consultants. So you don't do something of this magnitude alone. From there, we have extraordinary team members that, of course, take coaching and support from leadership, but it's also growing them. I always tell my students, I want you to not need me. And that's a hard place as a person to not be needed, because a lot of us want to live in the rescue zone. We want to live in the need zone. But when we can say it is okay to not be needed, that's your first step. But then when you can celebrate not being needed, and I finish that with them, I want you to want me to be here, but not to me to be here. And so really living out, the more I am not needed, that means I'm fulfilling my job of training, because the more they can sustain, the better they are being trained and led into leadership. And so that's another part of it. From a financial sustainability, mine is an incredibly unique model. We do not speak this to encourage others to follow suit. This is how I have been able to do it. But when I speak to business owners, anything less than this is wonderful. So don't look at it as this is what you are to aspire to. But the way my husband and I choose to live, and how we have chosen our life of investing in our children and things of that nature, I am 100% owner of our corporation, which is rare. You usually have investors, but I've maintained 100% ownership. I am able to take 0 dividends and to not take a salary. So because of our life choices, I'm able to pour everything 100% back into the organization, which means, I'm able to hire maybe 2 students as to what I would have paid myself that year. So that's okay for us. But I will also cautionarily say that is not the model I preach to businesses. It isn't something that I would say is more than or less than. Mm-hmm. It is just how we do it. And I'm okay with that. But what I would say is, if you are building a model, you need to look at paying yourself a fair wage, and to be able to say, maybe I don't need all of that and I can put a little bit back in, and that's okay too. So look at what works for your organization, and just know that there are varying degrees. Some will support mission by profit. So once they make a profit, they'll support through a profit. Some will support through the actual doing of the task. And then some will support in all of that. And wherever you choose, you're making a difference. That's the thing, is that people want to say, oh, it has to be of this level. I say to businesses every time I speak, if every business that could in the state of West Virginia would hire 1 person in recovery, how would that change our state? Just 1 person, not 20, 1 person. It would be a monumental change. And so we lose sight of the magnitude of the problem that we're facing, and we forget that the difference in 1 life is astronomically different, because there's a trickle down effect. It's then the difference in their children's lives and their children's children's lives. So we see all of that taking place. So never underestimate the power of reaching 1 person with your business.
And I know we're going to have to wrap it up in just a second, but I got one more question.
Yes.
The big question. You said your brand, your household name now, and they come to you. They just know. Personal branding, how important is that in that business developmental model of that? How did you do it?
Well, 22 years helps. I mean, that certainly helps. But the reality is when we first started with our mission, I did not speak about it at all. We were just doing it. It was not marketed. We had no advertisement. People would know when they were customers and came in, it was personally like, oh, I'm in recovery and I'm working here. And, it was their story to share. And over time, it's learning how to compassionately tell the story. You want to have a very respectful, ultra protective way of telling someone else's story, because it is not my story to share. We are the structure, we're the support. They are doing the daily hard work. And It's giving a platform for them to speak their story freely and openly without judgment or shame, and to really transform how our customers come in and experience organically stigma reduction. It's not an educational seminar on how to reduce stigma. It's come and sit in our booth, and you're going to watch this person grow week by week by week, and then you're going to be their biggest champion. And that's what's happened. We have customers that say, can I hug you to our students? Can I just give you a hug? I'm so proud of you. Well, how does that change their world? And they'll come back and say, I don't even know. And they're telling me they're proud of me. And this woman hugged me today and said she's so proud of me. And it makes a big difference with that.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. My cup is running over right now. I am so excited to just hear this. And I know this is going to be so incredibly inspiring to other people who are specifically watching this, because they're building their own models to create a difference, to create a sustainable impact as social entrepreneurs. And they will be so encouraged by the work you're doing. I hope everyone will take a moment to check out the show notes, the show description, also here on the screen where you have information on Tammy Jordan, on Shametria Gonzales, and on myself. And feel free to reach out to their websites, their contact information. As I mentioned today, Shametria is also training speakers in recovery, of various kinds of recovery, as well as speakers in general. So if you know someone, or if you're a social entrepreneur who knows you need to improve your speaking platform to help promote your social initiative, reach out to Shametria and see how she can support you. And if you're a social entrepreneur who would like support specifically in a coaching mastermind group of other social entrepreneurs, reach out to me at anscottlin.com and join us to just spend time with some of the most dynamic people you have ever met, people who are working and committed to make a difference, people like Tammy who are ready and working and committed. It's the most inspiring place to be. So thank you all for joining us today. It was such a treat to have you here, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I so appreciate it.
Oh, one more thing before we go. Tammy, what does it mean to you? What does the word social entrepreneur mean to you? I almost forgot that.
Oh, I think making a change for the greater good.
I love it.
Yes.
Beautiful. So beautiful. And the personal investment shows the level of commitment. And I don't just mean financial. I mean time, soul, spirit, complete dedication. And this is why I love, while I work with and collaborate with other nonprofits, I love personally working so much with social entrepreneurs, because we take more responsibility individually for the success of our initiative, for the success of our business. So you have to be very passionate about it. You can't be passive. So if you like to be motivated by that kind of thing, you're going to love being here. So every week, everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. Please check out our sponsor, positivetalkradio.com. And please, please come back. So we'll be live again next week. It's always at 12 noon on Wednesdays Eastern. That's 9 a.m. Pacific. And we welcome you to email in any of your comments and questions. And if we can, we'll answer them on the show. Be well and share your kindness today. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.